Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going over my top 5 rogue recommendations for you guys for December 2021. This is obviously going to be the last installment of this rogue recommendation series for this year, and all the main events are pretty much over. We just have Worlds wrapping up next weekend, so this is a pretty good time to play some casual DBS, experiment with some different decks you may have never thought about before. And yeah, I don't think organized play starts back up until February, if I'm not mistaken. I think the first regionals for the new season are in February, outside of any like smaller tournaments. Some other independent TOs are kind of doing themselves. But anyways, we'll get into this. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video, and let's get started with deck number 1. All right, so the first deck I want to recommend to you guys to try out this month is Golden Frieza. I'm mostly talking about the mono yellow variant that me, Marcus, and Danny were able to take to North American Nationals. Marcus took top 16 with the deck. Me and Danny took top 25% with the deck. But there is also the green yellow variant and the blue yellow variant, both of which have seen different degrees of success throughout different formats. But I really just like the mono yellow variant. And obviously when we talk about anything mono yellow, you have to compare it to Icarus. And I don't think this deck is necessarily better than Icarus. I think it has a higher ceiling than Icarus, but it's a bit less consistent. So let me explain. So I do have a profile here on the channel if you guys want to check it out from I believe 2 weeks ago when we were at Nationals. But anyways, just the kind of short version of it. Basically, the deck has to play an inherent engine of about 12 Frieza armies to make sure you can, pop, draw one, untap, and whatnot. You also have to play 4 Self-Awakeners, which is kind of annoying. Don't get me wrong. Roshi is the funniest yet worst card in the deck, but you have to play it to make sure you can flip your leader over. But once you get that engine going, you are outvaluing pretty much all decks in the game. So again, while it's a bit less consistent, the ceiling is just absolutely ridiculous. Think about it this way: you're basically a Soul Striker once you start popping and untapping 2, but you're a Soul Striker with access to the best yellow staples like Power of Super Saiyan, Bergamo, Cooler, all that good stuff. The deck is absolutely insane. One other thing to think about as well that also increases the ceiling of this deck compared to Icarus is that Icarus can't really afford to play cards like Frieza Divine Transformation or Return of the Dragon Fist Goku or even Machika Bora Unison, because they just cost way too much for Icarus, and the deck no longer has ways to untap energy now that the blue yellow variant isn't really viable anymore. So with Frieza, you pretty much fix that problem because you can play these 4 drops and these 5 drops and untap energy to have energy back available for defense and stuff like that. And once you play Frieza Divine Transformation and then untap 2, and if you have a Mecha Unison backing that up from the previous turn, you're in such an incredible spot. There is almost no way you lose that game. Like, it's just such a powerful deck, so fun to play as well. Again, having to play an entire engine kind of makes it a bit annoying at times. You can brick more than some other decks in the format, but again, that ceiling is so high up there. But even then, if you guys want to try the green yellow version or the blue yellow version, I do actually have a blue yellow variant on the deck from also the time of Nats. My teammate Jordan Beard played a blue yellow variant, so that's there. There are lots of green yellow variants on YouTube, so definitely check those out if you're interested. But I really like the mono yellow variant. I want to recommend it to you guys. Then we have King Piccolo. Man, I really didn't think I'd be talking about this deck until it got some like random legacy support, like maybe a year from now, maybe even farther from now. But we are talking about King Piccolo today. Main reason for that is it managed to top US Nationals and do very well, at least at one other Nationals. I'm not sure if it did well at 2 other Nationals, but I know for a fact it did well at least at 1 other Nats. But anyways, yeah, King Piccolo just took a lot of people by surprise over Nats season because it was able to secure so many top spots. Like, even one for King Piccolo in the kind of state that it is, even one just North American Nationals was a lot to process because they dominated this deck on the ban list, like putting Drum to 1, the limit of King Piccolo New Ruler amongst other generic red hits, right? But King Piccolo it still does what it does, albeit maybe a bit less consistently. But the thing that King Piccolo does is it plays a battle card for free once per turn during both players' turns once it flips, and you can flip as early as turn 2. So with all that in mind, the deck is still doing something really insane. And you got to keep in mind that the more recent ban lists, they've been very focused on eliminating free play from Dragon Ball Super, and King Piccolo just inherently does it as a deck. It doesn't like just splash free play cards, doesn't like make some small use of free play cards. The deck is, I'm going to free play a card once per turn during both players' turns. Like, that's the whole thing, which is kind of insane. But one other big thing that King Piccolo picked up is Son Goku Divine Presence that came out in set 14. You're just inherently comboing cards in King Piccolo, so fitting in Goku Divine Presence is an absolute no-brainer. Like, when you're just trying to play King Piccolo cards, you're just naturally meeting the cost to play Divine Presence, which is going to be another huge, probably 30k swing if you give itself the 5k, and then swing, give itself another 5k, right? So that just like super inherent synergy, it honestly makes Divine Presence easier to play in this deck than almost the actual red U7 decks. Like red Vegeta, you actually have to be playing like a very specific engine to make Divine Presence work, where you have to be comboing a lot of red cards that replace themselves. But even in red Gohan, like, yes, you combo to draw a card, but then you have to combo another card that's going to replace itself to make the most out of Divine Presence, where King Piccolo is just constantly comboing red cards as its inherent strategy. I think it does it better than red Gohan, honestly. So it's just such a good pickup for Divine Presence lately. But yeah, King Piccolo shocked us all, I would say, and this is a pretty cool red deck to try out. Then we have Green Starter Broly. Okay, so this one might be a little bit bold to call Rogue because it is going on to top 4 of Worlds, but I mean, you gotta give it to me, guys. This deck came out of absolute nowhere, which is why I'm talking about it here. It managed to get second place at the Asian Nationals, which I do have the profile here on the channel from that tournament, so feel free to check it out. And yeah, like I said, it's going on to top 4 of Worlds, which is insane. It's very, very similar to Cell Surge in the sense that it's a green deck, it's a hand control deck, it plays a lot of those same green staples, but I will say that Wang Po's list seems a decent amount different than the list I profiled. They're all in the same circle of players as far as I'm aware. You know, they're all friendly with each other and, you know, probably communicated about the deck. But the one thing I saw in the in Wang Po's version is that he's playing a bit more of a Broly chain. I'm not sure if it's fully mainboard or sideboarded, but that is something that he's leaning a bit more heavily into, and I can see that actually being really cool for a lot of matchups because it lets you just pivot into like this super aggressive green deck from this, like, you know, kind of non-interactive green hand control deck, because like the leader doesn't have to swing on the unawakened side. The leader also doesn't have to swing at leaders on the awakened side, so if your opponent plays a Unison or a battle card, you can just deny them cards from life and play passively, or again go into that Broly chain and play much more of like an aggressive route, which I think is cool. And I do gotta say that you guys probably all saw at Worlds, the Great Mass Saiyan Primal Carnage SCR really kind of proved itself, winning Wang basically an entire game all on its own. So that's definitely a good card to consider, where you know, SCRs like this that are a bit more narrow in usage have kind of been, I think, phased out by the community at large, but this just goes to show that those cards can still be very, very good. So pretty cool thing here for Green Broly starter deck. Then we have Android 21. So first and foremost, shout out to Rohit. This man is an absolute monster with 21. He topped 2 IRL events with the deck. I did profile him for one of them, and then he managed to top 8 Nationals, the most prestigious event in US for the year, with Android 21, which I guarantee you, if I asked most players, they would consider Android 21 a meme of a deck. Like, this guy was able to take it there and just do the thing, and it was absolutely incredible. This deck, just basically what it wants to do is ramp as hard as it can, mostly using Android 16 energy amplification, but you even have a few other ways to get energy going in this deck, and then you're just relying on Android 17, 18, Siblings Revive. So it's almost similar to how like SS4 Vegeta and Soul Striker were relying on Android 17 turning the tide, but this deck can ramp just as fast as SS4 Vegeta. And this boss monster is so strong, because if your opponent has the answer to turning the tide, you're in big trouble. But the answers to Android 17, 18, Siblings Revived are far less prevalent in the format. Firstly, if you're playing yellow and you just play something to rest it, which is tough to do because it has deflect, and we don't play a lot of non-deflect rest modes, at least in mono yellow decks. If you manage to do that, at least your board is still getting wiped. But if you just let this guy hit the board without any questions asked, he's gonna wipe your board, attack you twice, and take 4 cards out of your hand. And there's some really nifty things you can do with Siblings Revive, because let's say your opponent's playing like a mono blue deck, and they're playing the mono blue tuck 1 draw 2 super combos. You're able to like take an Overwhelm out of their hand, or like a Chomp out of their hand, put it in their energy, and now their super combos are dead. So that's just a really crazy play you can do with the deck if it all kind of lines up that way. But yeah, just a really fun deck. I've always been a fan of 21, so I did want to recommend it to you guys now that it has some kind of weight under its belt. And then finally, guys, we are going to talk about Red Jiren, which in comparison to King Piccolo, I'll let you guys know, this is actually my favorite red deck of the format. I'm a really big fan of Jiren because I like the fact that it can play passively, which I don't think enough players do. There are lots of matchups where playing Jiren passively and then just like going in once you have a crazy big established board can win you the game. Just because you're an aggro deck doesn't mean you have to attack with your leader, especially because you get no benefits off attacking with your unawakened leader. So keep that in mind. Like when I was testing Golden Frieza for Nationals, it was a lot tougher when the Jiren player wouldn't attack me and would force me to awaken myself, rather than when they would just attack me constantly. Because once I can awaken, I can stabilize, but if I'm not able to awaken, I have to do some really weird plays to make sure that I never tap out, so that Jiren can't just like 6-0 me in one turn. So I really do like Jiren for that fact. Besides that though, the boss monsters are really strong. And one thing I've just thought about as I've been playing Jiren a bit more, again, now that like the main season's over, I've been playing Jiren a bit more because I find it fun. The really cool thing is that like even though a lot of the effects play 1-drops in rest mode, they don't typically die very often because you are just evolving over them for free, and now it's much harder for your opponent to deal with a 15k battle card as opposed to a you know, 4 or 1k battle card, right? So with that in mind, you're establishing this crazy board that is just gonna like put so much pressure on your opponent. And some matchups can be tough, like if your opponent's playing board wipe type cards, that can be annoying, but a lot of yellow and blue don't necessarily have like complete board wipes unless your whole battle areas in rest mode, which is a whole problem in and of itself. But anyways, the other card that makes the deck so much fun is Broly Crown Retribution. I mean, this card, for how weak red is, in my opinion, I do think red's technically the weakest color at the moment, but Broly Crown Retribution is just an absolute powerhouse of a card. Definitely want to main board 2 to 3 copies and then side any more that you're not maining. Like, this card is just absolutely ridiculous. One other really cool synergy with Jiren I'll let you guys know about if you haven't thought about it is that the 1-drop baby Jiren, you have to pitch a card from your hand to search Jiren from your deck, and you can pitch Koitsukai, which then allows you to just, you know, use Koitsukai to activate main and set that up without having to attack first, which is really nice. So a couple of reasons I really like Jiren. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what road decks you guys are playing down in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.